Sup, you beautiful bastards. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday, February 19th, 2018. Welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing I want to talk about today, one of the more requested stories of the day, let's talk about this situation around LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Laura Ingraham. On February 15th, LeBron James and Kevin Durant do an interview. It was a segment for a show called Uninterrupted. They talked about things like President Trump, the country, other social issues. And in that video interview, we see this.
The number one job in America, the point of person, is someone who doesn't understand the people and really don't give a fuck about the people.
When we're talking about leadership and what's going on in our country, it's all about leadership. And I learned that playing basketball. I learned a lot of life skills from playing basketball. You need to empower people. You need to, encourage people. And that's what builds a great team. And I feel like our team as a country is not ran by a great coach.
It's not even a surprise when he says something. It's not even a surprise. It's like laughable. It's like,
it's laughable.
It's laughable and it's scary.
And in response to that, later that night, Fox News host Laura Ingraham criticized the players, saying LeBron's comments were barely intelligible, they were ungrammatical, adding,
"Here's his barely intelligible, not to mention ungrammatical take on President Trump in a new ESPN podcast. I'm numb to this commentary, must they run their mouths like that?" Unfortunately, a lot of kids and some adults take these ignorant comments seriously. Look, there might be a cautionary lesson in LeBron for kids. This is what happens when you attempt to leave high school a year early to join the NBA. And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
And following this, we saw a lot of big reactions online. Some saying, yeah, Laura's right, stick to basketball, don't talk about politics. Others saying, no, these guys are just embracing their freedom of speech. They're giving their opinion on something. Some going as far to say Ingram's comments were racist. We then saw Ingraham respond to those allegations of racism, and ultimately her defense is, I've told people to shut up and blank for years. Saying in 2003, I wrote a New York Times bestseller called Shut Up and Sing. This criticizing the Dixie Chicks and Barbra Streisand. I've told Robert De Niro to shut up and act, Jimmy Kimmel to shut up and make us laugh, Coach Greg Popovich to shut up and coach. Adding, if pro athletes and entertainers want to freelance as political pundits, then they should not be surprised when they're called out for insulting politicians. There was no racial intent in my remarks. False. Defamatory charges of racism are a transparent attempt to immunize entertainment and sports elites from scrutiny and criticism. Following this, we saw LeBron responding over the weekend.
We will definitely not shut up and dribble. I would definitely not do that. I mean too much to the youth. I mean too much to so many kids that feel like they don't have a way out and they need someone to help lead them out of the situation they're in. Also, wish she would have did a little bit more fact checking, because I actually did finish high school and didn't leave early. I graduated high school. The best thing she did is gonna help me is create more awareness. And I get to sit up here and talk about social injustice, equality, and why a woman on a certain network decided to tell me to shut up and dribble.
And as far as my personal response to this, I'm not even going to touch the intention, was it racism, blah, blah, blah part. But I do think Laura Ingraham's point is ridiculous, as well as considering that she is on Fox News and the guests they bring on Fox News, it's very hypocritical. I'll hit specifics on that point in a second. One, I think it's ridiculous to disqualify someone's opinion on something because of their job or the amount of money they make. Before Donald Trump was president, he said he had billions. We know that he had at least hundreds of millions of dollars. Yes, he was a businessman, but he was also a reality TV star. Just because he wasn't elected at that time doesn't mean that Donald Trump's opinions and reactions on things should have been disqualified. Using your same argument, we could also say, why should we care what Laura says? She wasn't elected. As far as the hypocritical point, I'll just piggyback on what Chris Long pointed out. Chris Long, of course, Eagles defensive end, two-time Super Bowl champion. You've also probably seen him pop up in the news this year because he donated his entire salary this year to charity. He made a very long Twitter collage of all the times Fox News brought on celebrities to hear their opinion. Jon Voight, Kid Rock, Chuck Norris, Clint Eastwood. And if you want to take the time, the list goes on and on. So why do their opinions seemingly matter, but when LeBron and Kevin talk, no, you play basketball. So for Laura to have that opinion, I just feel like it's ridiculous. But that said, of course, I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts on this? Then let's talk about Black Panther for two reasons. One, it is just killing it at the box office right now. It's estimated that it's going to make $201 million in North America over the weekend, and internationally, it's expected to make $387 million more. Ratings-wise, it's got 97% on Rotten Tomatoes with an audience score of 77%. And I will say I personally love the movie. It's a gorgeous-looking movie. They somehow make me care about almost all the characters, even secondary characters. And Michael B. Jordan is a fantastic villain with a fantastic backstory. For me personally, when it comes to these kind of movies, how good the movie is often depends on the bad guy. Like some comic book movies can power through not having a really good bad guy, like Guardians of the Galaxy I feel like has had a bad guy problem. But you just watch the first movie, it's just so fun, the main five are so great. And with Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan just kills it at being Killmonger. That said, I can understand people's criticisms about certain things, like the green screen, some pacing issues depending on your personal preference, predictability, but then you could argue it's about the ride. So there's that side of it, but then there was also the fake news side of it. Over the last few days, some social media users have claimed that they were attacked while going to screenings of Black Panther. And these people claim the attacks were racially motivated. Most of the photos included photos of people bruised, bloody after these alleged beatings. We'll take a look at some of the tweets. For example, I went to see Black Panther with my girlfriend and a black teenager shouted, "You at the wrong theater," and smashed a bottle on her face. I was so excited to see Black Panther and a young black man at the theater shouted, "You in the wrong place, cracker," and proceeded to bloody my face. It hurt so bad I can't take it. Went to the Black Panther premiere tonight and my wife was assaulted. 3 black women approached us and one said, "This movie ain't for you, white bitch," and then attacked her. Security escorted us to the parking lot and we left. We just wanted to see a movie. And there are more and more posts, but you get the example. That said, if you were familiar with the Rob Porter story that we talked about, you know that was Rob Porter's wife in one of those pictures. Or if you're a fan of Supernatural, you know that this is Jensen Ackles. And some of the other photos included real photos from other assaults. This particular one happened in Sweden about a month ago. And Twitter's tried to stop the spread of all these false reports. They've suspended some of the accounts, but if you go online right now, there's still people spreading this fake news. And while this is disgusting to me because people are spreading fake news to further the racial divides in this country, it's also extremely disrespectful and disgusting because they're using real victims. People's horrible moments being exploited to push a racist agenda. And that's the end of the story. I just wanted to make people aware of this fake news. And if your aunts and uncles are sharing this because they didn't look into it and it just kind of furthers what they think about the world, hit them with that truth. They'll reject it, but still you'll know you're in the right. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome brought to you by Postmates. Postmates, of course, a fantastic delivery on demand app. You want something from the store, you want something from your favorite restaurant, boom, open up the app, they will deliver it to your home, your office, your wherever. With a lack of free time I have these days, it has become vital to my life. I highly recommend it. And best of all, if you are a new customer, you want to check this out, go to postafranco.com, download the app, enter promo code PHILAD, and they will give you $100 in free delivery credit. And the first bit of awesome is just a recommendation. In the past, I recommended movies like Train to Busan, I've recommended series like 11/22/63, Handmaid's Tale, Future Man. But something I haven't done in a very long time is to recommend a video game, and that is finally coming to an end. If you're looking for a fun, enjoyable game that makes you feel like you earned your wins, and also if you want to go that far, has an extremely high skill level, I cannot recommend the game Celeste enough. You can play it on Steam, the Nintendo Switch, the PS4, the Xbox One. It also has a fantastic soundtrack, one that I love so much I actually listen to that while I research stories. And of course, are there better games in the world? Yes, but this is one of the last ones that just kind of fell in front of me, and I just wanted to share it. Then we had other awesome, including the director of Black Panther, Brian Coogler, kind of just walking us through a fight scene. More slow-mo guys, awesome. We had Life Noggin asking which animal is the smartest. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's talk about the fallout from the Parkland, Florida school shooting. This mass shooting, of course, involving a former student bringing an AR-15 to the school, killing 17, injuring many others, and many people were looking for who to blame other than just the shooter. Of course, there's a conversation to be had around gun laws, specifically what you can have, background checks, things like that. Right? People asking questions like, why is it that in Florida you have to be 21 years old, you have to go through a 3-day background check to get a handgun? But if you opt instead to buy an AR-15, seemingly a much more deadly weapon, you only have to be 18 years old, and you just go in, if you pass a quickie background check, you could be out in minutes. But at the same time, you had people placing blame elsewhere. You had Florida Republican Congressman Brian Mast blaming who he called the biggest pusher of violence.
What do we do with the biggest pusher of violence? The biggest pusher of violence is hands down Hollywood movies, hands down the video game market. When you look at Call of Duty, when you look at movies like John Wick, the societal impacts of people being desensitized to killing in ways that are different than how somebody that was on the battlefield is desensitized is troubling.
Also, it's important to note, Brian Mast is not alone. We had Matt Bevin, he's a Republican governor from Kentucky. He's endorsed by the NRA, and he said this.
And then you look at the culture of death that is being celebrated. There are video games that, yes, are listed for mature audiences, but kids play them and everybody knows it, and there's nothing to prevent a child from playing them, that celebrate the slaughtering of people. There are games that literally replicate and give people the ability to score points for doing the very same things that these students are doing inside of schools, where you get extra points for finishing someone off who's lying there begging for their life. These are quote-unquote video games, and they're forced down our throats under the guise of protected speech. It's garbage. It's the same as pornography.
We also had people like CNN political commentator hitting some of these same notes, but then also blaming rap music.
We have a culture thing here that we're not discussing. I mean, when I grew up, it was Andy Griffith, and you never had school shootings, and we still had prayer in school. And we drove to school with guns in the car. I say we. I would see students that did that. Today, we are in a different time when not the media, but movie industry, the rap industry, radio in general talks about these things that are common now, and we have almost desensitized.
And it's incredibly annoying to me that I have to say the same thing that I have to say every time some politician decides to blame movies and video games and rap music. Every time after a tragedy like this, the research doesn't back that up. Like with any topic, if you search long enough, you can find a site or some research that says what you think, right? There are studies on both sides that say, video games do cause people to be violent. No, they don't. But if you look at a lot of the newer research, those using better methods, you find that there's very minimal, if any, connection whatsoever to violent video games and violence in real life. It also seemingly doesn't answer the question why these other countries that have violent video games and rap music and violent movies, why they don't have similar issues. And pretty much anyone that has ever played a game where you kill someone will tell you it did not make them go, yeah, I'll do this in real life now. Right? And to like a lesser degree, when I played Pokemon, it didn't make me go, it'd be great to just make animals fight each other for my entertainment. And to me, it's just a ridiculous argument. I get why people believe it, especially if they haven't played games, because it offers a simple solution and explanation, but just no. What these people are saying is backed by their feelings and their beliefs, but not by facts. And it's really disgusting to me that these three would run what I would just see as a distraction campaign. We have a real problem in this country, and we need to have a conversation to come up with solutions. And on the note of finding solutions, we of course have to ask the question of where do we get the solutions? We can look to the White House, but the situation seems iffy at best. We've seen the president talk about this being a mental health problem. We've seen him praise local law enforcement. We also saw him tweet over the weekend, very sad that the FBI missed all of the many signals sent out by the Florida school shooter. This is not acceptable. They are spending too much time trying to prove Russia collusion with the Trump campaign. There is no collusion. Get back to the basics and make us all proud. And this is connected to a story I want to talk about much more later this week, and that is the indictment of 13 Russians, 3 Russian nationals. Trump's response to the 37-page indictment was, hey, this proves there was no collusion. We're vindicated. This because the indictment read, Russian operatives communicated with unwitting individuals associated with the Trump campaign. But also on that note, you had people noting that this is not the end of Mueller's investigation, and this indictment seems to be just one facet of the Russian situation. This being the specific situation of organized Russians trying to cause chaos online using social media. But like I said, I want to do a deeper dive on that later this week, and I just wanted to give you some background context for that tweet. And with that background understood, it appears the president is saying because the FBI was focused on Russia, that is why procedure wasn't followed when the FBI was warned about the shooter in this incident in January. So we had that version of the president on Twitter over the weekend, and then this morning, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, said this. The president spoke to Senator Cornyn on Friday about the bipartisan bill he and Senator Murphy introduced to improve federal compliance with criminal background check legislation. While discussions are ongoing and revisions are being considered, the president is supportive of efforts to improve the federal background check system. So that does seem like a positive. Pro-gun, anti-gun people I talk to, most are still on board with better background check. That said, when you glance at the main version of this bill that people talk about, there doesn't seem to be anything in this bill that would have stopped this Parkland, Florida shooting. And for some background, this was called the Fix the NICS Act. It was later merged with the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act of 2017. It actually passed the House last year. It's currently in the Senate. It's also supported by the NRA. And reportedly, the act would give states incentives to upload information about people who are prohibited from buying a gun. This including convicted criminals, people who were dishonorably discharged, and understandably, the bill was built this way because it came after Sutherland Springs. That, you might remember, is the Texas shooting that resulted in 26 people being killed. But here's the thing, this actually wouldn't have stopped the Parkland shooter. He did pass an NICS background check. He wasn't a convicted criminal. He wasn't dishonorably discharged. And as far as who's speaking out the most and the loudest about what to do next, it's actually the survivors of the school shooting. On Saturday, we saw students from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School holding a rally. They gathered together to protest current gun laws, speak out in the wake of last week's shooting. The 5 that you have likely seen at this point, you have David Hogg, Alex Wynn, Cameron Kasky, Jacqueline Coran, and Emma Gonzalez. And Emma Gonzalez has become one of the main faces of this movement thanks to a speech that she gave over the weekend that has just blown up, where she took aim at politicians and then specifically Trump.
If the president wants to come up to me and tell me to my face that it was a terrible tragedy and how it should never have happened, and maintain telling us how nothing is going to be done about it, I'm going to happily ask him how much money he received from the National Rifle Association. It doesn't matter because I already know. $30 million! Politicians who sit in their our gilded House and Senate seats funded by the NRA telling us nothing could have ever been done to prevent this. We call BS. They say that tougher gun laws do not decrease gun violence. We call BS. They say a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun. We call BS. They say guns are just tools like knives and are as dangerous as cars. We call BS. No, they say that no laws could have been able to prevent the hundreds of senseless tragedies that have occurred. We call BS. That us kids don't know what we're talking about, that we're too young to understand how the government works. We call BS. If you agree, register to vote. Contact your local congresspeople. Give them a piece of your mind.
The students have also announced a march on Washington that will call for stricter gun laws. They're calling it the March for Our Lives. It is set for March 24th. The march's mission statement reading, March for Our Lives is created by, inspired by, and led by students across the country who will no longer risk their lives waiting for someone else to take action to stop the epidemic of mass school shootings that has become all too familiar. Separate from this, we've also seen students planning walkouts. The first of these is planned for March 14th, exactly 1 month after last week's shooting. The walkout will reportedly happen at 10 a.m., last 17 minutes, 1 minute per person who was killed. There's also a second walkout that's planned for April 20th. I've seen people criticizing it, saying, oh, kids, 420. No, that's not what it's about. April 20th is actually the 19th anniversary of the Columbine shooting. The walkout there is also scheduled for 10 a.m., but it's scheduled to last the rest of the day. This morning, we also saw a protest take place. 17 teenagers from a group called Teens for Gun Reform laid down on the ground outside the White House. There, they stayed motionless for 3 minutes to symbolize how long they say it took the shooter to purchase the AR-15 that he used to kill the students and teachers last week. And ultimately, that is where we are right now, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this situation evolve. And I mean that in two respects. One, will anything actually happen with laws around guns? And two, this is an election year. And understandably, this is going to be a key campaign issue. So will that mean that something actually does change so that people can say, hey, look, we were a part of progress? Or will it incentivize those on the right to maybe not budge because they're worried about re-election? Ultimately, they're all running in different places, so you have different situations, but it will be very interesting to see. That said, of course, this is the Philip DeFranco Show. I'd love to know your thoughts on this last story, the first one, anything in between in those comments down below. And that's where I'm gonna end today's show. And remember, if you like this video, you like what I'm trying to do with this channel, you wanna see more stuff like this, hit that like button. Also be sure to subscribe, make sure you don't miss these daily weekday videos, which actually, if you did miss the last Philip DeFranco Show, you wanna catch up, click or tap right there to watch that. Or if you need something lighter, we have a brand new behind the scenes vlog today, click or tap right there to watch that. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.